So let's contrast that now with Senator Dick Durbin, who the week after the King hearings held hearings on the civil rights of American Muslims in America today, concerned that there were various hate crimes and acts against American Muslims here in the United States. Contrast that with the King hearings. So we have Senator Durbin holding hearings claiming that American Muslims are constantly victims of these sorts of hate crimes and discrimination. Is that the reality in America today?
You know, I don't think so, and you know, to be very fair, I really, personally, for example, I mean, I've had minor things that have happened to me, my sister, but you know, overall, I think that America is a wonderful place to live, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud to say that our Constitution is still very strong, and our rights are still in place where they should be. People who do go through difficult scenarios and situations, bias crimes, of course those should be addressed on an individual level, but I do not believe that, you know, I'm one person who definitely stands up against Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and any other hate against any general group of people. At the same time, though, it has to be taken on an individual level. One can't assume that the entire community is under attack, because many times the extremists and others will try to hijack that point and say, you know what, there you go. They don't like you, they don't want you here, and therefore you don't belong there, and you should hate the country you live in, which is ludicrous. You know, and so we can't feed into that. You know, I feel like it's a problem if we do.
Great. Sami, stay with us for our next segment. We'll be inviting callers to tweet and contact us on Facebook so we can ask you some questions about these and other issues.
Great. Thank you.
Please stay with us here on Liberation Square. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Liberation Square. In this segment, called The Public Square, we invite you, the viewers, to call us here at 201-843-8333, email us, ls@dandana.tv, join us at Facebook. Our page is entitled Liberation Square, or tweet us. For those of you on Twitter, we are at LiberationSQ. Our first caller today is Shireen from New Jersey. Shireen, go ahead and join our conversation with Sami and I.
Well, thank you very much. I just want to make a brief comment before I make my question.
Sure.
Because there has been a lot of talk coming from elected officials and from the media indicating that the members of the Muslim community are not speaking enough about you know, radicalism and the fact that they are against it, as though it was our responsibility to do it. But anyway, I know for a fact that Congressman King's district has a sizable Muslim population. So I wonder, and I have to wonder, why the congressman did not include people from his own district. That's what representation is about. And therefore, eliminate or add to the opportunity for these people to voice their opinions. We don't have the opportunity to go on TV or on the radio or in the media to be heard. And if we are invited by a member of the House, obviously that gives us a very good stage to say what we want to say. After all, we are against the radicalization of our faith.
Right. Great question, Shireen. And I think you point out the old adage here in America where everyone says all politics is local. No matter what office you represent, all politics is local. So, Sami, why don't you explain where Peter King's district is in New York? I am sure he has a nice, sizable population of American Muslims, and why it is he may not have called his own constituents to testify or have input on this hearing?
Well, first of all, it's a great question, Shireen, as well. And I think that, first of all, Congressman King represents a section of central Long Island, central West Long Island. It's a very diverse community. You know, it's not monolithic by any means, and it does have quite a number of Muslims. There's a mosque, a major mosque in his district as well. And what I understood, at least in my own conversations with the congressman, is that he himself does not feel like his own Muslim community in his district has done enough, done enough to really build that trust and to reach out and and these are again coming from his words, not mine. You know, that you know, he has visited those mosques, and he actually had a, interestingly enough, he had a good relationship with the Muslim community prior to 9/11. You know, he had actually stood up for Muslims abroad. I mean, he had stood up for Muslims during the time of the Kosovo War, and he has, generally speaking, drifted since then, since 9/11, in the last 10 years or so, and has done a lot of damage for his relationship with his constituents. Now, how does the Muslim community respond to that? That's another question.
Right. Let me ask you this. We've got another email I see coming in. Hattie from Washington, D.C. wants to know, Sami, maybe you and I should debate this issue. Who is better on civil rights with respect to American Muslims, the Democratic Party or the Republican Party? Great question from Hattie from Washington, D.C.
Well, I think that the heritage of the Republican Party is incredible. You know, the history and the heritage, and all the way up to the time about Ronald Reagan, I think,
How about
really,
Abraham Lincoln?
That's what I mean
We
when I say
Republicans
heritage.
are the party
I think
of Abraham Lincoln.
And Lincoln is one of my
Civil
favorite
rights
presidents,
movement,
frankly.
right.
And when I consider myself to be a Democrat, it's not, the blue blood, hard left wing. I consider myself to be somebody who definitely sees the whole picture. And I think at this present day and age, I feel that the Democratic Party has done more to incorporate struggling minorities. That's the way that I personally see it. That's not to say there are not minorities in the Republican Party. Of course there are. But I just feel that the Republicans can and should do more to explain to these minorities that are struggling and up and coming in the American community that, you know what, we want you. We want you to be part of our party, because I don't really think that many, especially Arabs and Muslims in America, feel that way.
Right. Great. Great. We have another question from Amina. Amina is writing in. She's from Chicago, Illinois. And she writes in to ask, where are our Arab American and Muslim American elected officials on these issues? So I think, as we pointed out, the first elected Muslim American to Congress is Keith Ellison, is that right? And he testified at the hearings.
Yes, he did.
We have another member of Congress,
Andre Carson.
Andre Carson from
both good friends, actually.
Indiana, is that right?
He's from Indiana, yes.
Indiana, is that right? And then we have some Arab American members of Congress. Darrell Issa, Republican of California. Charles Bustani, Republican from Louisiana. We have, of course, the Dean of the Delegation, Nick Rahal, a Democrat from West Virginia, and two new members, both Republicans. We have Justin Amash from Michigan, and we have Richard Hanna from New York. And so the question, Sami, for you is certainly, where are these elected members of Congress in all of this hearing business, if you will?
Well, it's a tough time to be an active Arab American / Muslim American in America when it comes, a vocal person who basically comes out and really stands up for your heritage. It's a very tough time, and I think that there's, and let me comment on that very briefly. I really think that there's a lot of burden and feeling of kind of discontent within the community where we kind of look at these officials and we say, why aren't they doing things for us? Why aren't they changing the world? Why aren't they standing up for us? But I think it's a little bit of an unfair burden that we're placing on them sometimes. Because, when we look at Keith Ellison and Andre Carson, for example, who I mentioned, both, good friends to me, and I respect them tremendously. But you look at them, they're just two people. And in reality, Congress is vast. What we should be, rather than kind of going just to our people who kind of have the same heritage as us and background as us, we should look at people who share similar ideals, whatever community they're from, because that's America. And if we say that we're American, then rather than wait for those two congressmen or those several Arab American congressmen to speak up for us, stand up for us, well, go to Rush Holt, go to, Schumer in the Senate, go to whoever might represent you and say, you know what? You have a responsibility to stand up for me.
Right. How about Chris Christie, the governor of New Jersey, who has been absolutely tremendous?
Yes,
he's
he has.
Republican governor of New Jersey. He's not an Arab American. He's not a Muslim American, but he has been on the forefront of speaking up for Muslims and Arabs in this country. And he's done a wonderful job, not only on behalf of his state of New Jersey, but frankly on behalf of the Republican Party.
Sohail Mohammed is being, was nominated for a judgeship, and he, he's come under fire for that nomination, and Christie, and he has done remarkably well. I mean, honestly, I can say, as a governor, he has done remarkably well in standing up for the community, and really in telling, the American community overall that, well, you know what, they're just as American as we are. We're just as American as everyone else.
Right. How about Mayor Michael Bloomberg of New York is another good example.
Yes.
Of course, he's an independent.
Yes.
Is that right? He's of the Independent Party. But Michael Bloomberg's another one who you can attest to has been excellent in standing up and speaking up for the rights.
Well, you know, that came mainly around the time late last year of the so-called Ground Zero Mosque, obviously misnamed as such, Park 51,
right,
exactly.
Right.
And you know, he came forward and he said, you know, American Muslims have the right to worship and to build a mosque anywhere that they wish and anywhere that they please. This is America. Right. And you know what? Again, he came under fire for a lot of that. And these are the types of leaders that we should rally around, that we should say, you know what? Against all odds, you stood up for us. Right. The problem is sometimes you find that Arab Americans and Muslim Americans, we're still silent. You know, we might say that's what they should say, but then we don't even send them a thank you note. Send them an email. Send them a letter. Whatever. You know, just
give them their
say
kudos.
Thank you.
That's deserved.
Exactly.
Right.
Say thank you.
I think we have time for one more question. I see it coming in. Mohammed from Detroit, Michigan, is asking about the divisions in the American Muslim community. Are there political divisions, racial divisions, divisions amongst country, whether it's South Asian Muslims or Arab Muslims or African American Muslims? What are the divisions amongst the American Muslim community here in the United States?
Well, that's the thing. We have to be careful not to fall as a community into the idea that we're somehow monolithic. We have every right to not be. And I, just as I might be a Democrat, I respect my Republican counterparts in the Arab and Muslim American community. I believe that everyone has a right to their own position and opinion. Again, I hate to repeat it, this is America, and everybody has a difference, and that's okay. So yes, the American Muslim community is very diverse, and our leaders and our officials should definitely understand that that diversity means that they might have to meet with more than one group. They may not be able to go to one mosque and say, you know, we've met with the Muslim community. No, you might have to go to 5, 6, 7 mosques and a couple of community centers in between.
Terrific.
You know, and that matters most.
Well, thank you, Sami. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you for watching the premiere edition of Liberation Square. I hope you'll join us next Sunday, once again live at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Randa Fahmy.